Who's had it better, this generation of students or the last? It can be a prickly debate, and there are no easy answers. Young Canadians today are facing big challenges getting started in life, paying for college or a university education, landing a job, or simply getting by.
So I try to literally limit my spending just to my gas money.
I had applied for at least 100 jobs and I only got back like maybe 7.
I don't leave campus because I can't afford to do anything off campus.
And we know they're not alone. So we've researched statistics on tuition, apartment rentals, minimum wage, and youth employment in the hopes we can unpack a complex debate and lay it out in black and white. In the 60s and 70s, where most of our data begins, the city of Halifax was changing in big ways. It was a period of what officials called urban renewal through demolition and construction. Scenes not so different from today's Halifax. In 1965, the average tuition at Nova Scotia universities is $5.15. A one-bedroom apartment in Halifax is about $1.40, and there are 2 different minimum wages in the province: $1.05 an hour for men and 80 cents an hour for women. Canada's youth unemployment rate for the same year is 6.5%, a rate that had been up and down since the 1940s. A recession at the beginning of the 1980s led to historically high youth unemployment. Tuition is less than $1,000 a year and rising, but it's about to skyrocket. Tuition in Nova Scotia is over $3,000 in 1995. And rent, on the other hand, has yet to take off. An average one-bedroom apartment in Halifax is about $500 a month. Minimum wage starts to jump up between 2000 and 2010, growing by more than just pocket change from year to year like it has in previous decades. By the end of this decade, average tuition in Nova Scotia has actually dropped because of a temporary freeze at Dalhousie University. So where are we now? COVID spiked the Canadian youth unemployment rate in 2020, but otherwise it's hovered between 10 and 15% over the last 20 years. Minimum wage in Nova Scotia has risen to $16.50 an hour. The average one-bedroom apartment in Halifax as of early 2025 costs $17.70 a month. And post-secondary students in Nova Scotia this fall pay an average of almost $10,000 a year.
But even compared to 25 years ago when I was a university student, it just wasn't nearly so hard for me to pay my rent. And I could get a summer job and cover most of my costs for a year. That is like a hope and a prayer for most young people today.
Kershaw is the founder of a charitable think tank that advocates for generational fairness. He says the government should invest more in younger Canadians and channel more funding into post-secondary education and housing.
It is harder to be a young adult today than it was some decades ago.
But not all analysts agree that Gen Z's struggles are all they're made out to be.
Comparing over time is tricky. I would never say that this particular cohort that we've got is particularly blessed or anything like that.
Usher says a lot of students can and are choosing to live at home to save on costs. And he points out that there are more tax credits, grants, scholarships, and interest-free loans available now than there used to be.
People just, they spend less time on campus. They want to work a little bit more or they don't have the pocket money to do it. Like, people just adjust their lifestyle in order to make education happen.
And as we've heard, students are already making those adjustments. So let's zoom out and look at what all of this historical data is telling us. It tells us that Canadian undergrads in Nova Scotia pay the highest tuition in the country at nearly $10,000 a year. And if tuition had risen with inflation, Nova Scotia tuition would be about a third of what it is. Over the past half-century, Nova Scotia students in the mid-2000s had to work the most hours of minimum wage in a year to pay off tuition. Rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Halifax has been climbing, and there's been a steep upward swing in the number of hours students have to work to pay rent. The most recent stat we have for an average one-bedroom apartment in Halifax is from early 2025, $17.70. In the minimum wage from that time, somebody would have to work 116 hours, the highest it's been in the last 35 years. And if you're looking for a job, it's hard out there. Youth unemployment in Canada is at one of its highest levels right now since the 1990s, except for a spike at the beginning of the pandemic. But no young people had it as bad for employment as those in the early to mid 1980s. And the youth who were entering the workforce in the mid-60s, again, those earliest baby boomers, had almost historically low unemployment rates. But their wages were also really low, which made things not so affordable. So can we say one generation of students is worse off than the others? The experts say it's a matter of perspective and politics.
We need to fix budgets that are becoming increasingly ageist towards younger people.
Every cohort has its own set of challenges. Students always need help, and we should recognize which bits are good, which bits are bad, and see how we can adjust things to make life easier during, given current conditions.
Going into this, I thought we'd see that the baby boomers had it the easiest and Gen Z has it the worst, but that's not really what the numbers say. There are so many variables that change from year to year, decade to decade, and from person to person. And there were some things that we just couldn't factor in, like the price of food, utilities, and taxes. But here's what the numbers do tell us. A student from the years that we've highlighted, working the same number of hours at their minimum wage jobs, all have something in common. None of them would earn enough to cover their expenses. It's just hard to get by as a student. Frances Willick, CBC News, Halifax.